In the cold Baltic Sea, in 2011, Sonar recorded a giant round mass on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, 60 meters wide, like a flying saucer buried for thousands of years. For more than a decade, science was powerless to explain. But when the data was fed into the most advanced artificial intelligence, the screen only displayed two cold words: not human. If it is not natural, not human, then what is it? An ancient legacy, a hidden message, or something much more terrifying? Some secrets seem to have slept under the cold mud, but when humans and AI work together to uncover them, creepy signs appear. Geometric patterns, strange metals, inexplicable electronic signals. These details not only remind us of the past, but also make us ask, is this a warning for today's era? This story does not begin with AI, but from a seemingly normal voyage. In the Baltic mist, the sonar signal suddenly recorded an image too perfect for nature to create. And from that moment, the Ocean X team entered a mystery that no one could turn back. In 2011, in the cold Baltic Sea, a seemingly normal expedition turned into one of the world's most shocking maritime mysteries. The Swedish Ocean X team, led by Peter Lindberg and Dennis Oberg, simply wanted to hunt for sunken treasure. But their sonar screen showed an unexpected image: a giant round mass, up to 60 meters wide, standing out from the dark sea mud. It was not gold, nor was it a shipwreck, but an object that could not be named. The structure did not stand alone. From the front, a line stretched hundreds of meters across the seabed, as if it were a walkway or runway leading straight to the object. When the divers approached, all the electronic equipment suddenly turned off, from the camera to the communication system. This phenomenon has been recorded many times, making those who witnessed it shudder. Is this just a natural rock, or something that was intentionally designed? For more than a decade, the scientific community has been fiercely divided. Some people claim that this is the remnant of ancient glacial activity, but others believe that the shape is so perfect that it is difficult to be created by nature. More than 13 years have passed, and the debate has lasted seemingly endlessly until a new force appeared: artificial intelligence. It not only rereads the data, but also shines into the dark layers that have never been opened. The question now is no longer what, but what are we about to face? In 2025, when the Baltic Anomaly debate had lasted for more than a decade, people decided to try a new approach. Put all the old data, from sonar images, 3D maps, to sediment samples, into a new generation of artificial intelligence systems. Hope was placed on AI because of a simple belief: if humans with finite eyes cannot see, then machines with millions of calculations per second can illuminate the forgotten details. AI is programmed to classify everything on the seabed, from volcanic rocks, ancient glaciers, to shipwrecks or man-made structures. With a huge database of comparison data, this machine learning system can give results in just a few minutes, with almost absolute accuracy. People expected that this time, the Baltic mystery would be named definitively. But what happened was beyond imagination. After processing billions of data points, the screen displayed a repeated message: not classified. In some analyses, the words even appear colder: not human. For a system that is used to labeling all kinds of data, this silence is more frightening than any explanation. The illustrations from AI have shaken the research community even more. 3D scans show the object's surface has parallel lines, clear right angles, and depressions that look like carved symbols. These are features that nature would find difficult to create. especially in the volatile deep sea environment. Some models even suggest that the structure of the object resembles an assembly rather than a solid block of rock. What's even stranger, some reports from the initial analysis team were not widely released. Rumors spread that the most sensitive data was withheld because it was too unbelievable or too dangerous to release. And from here, another question arises, even more terrifying than the discovery itself. Is what AI found hidden not because we don't know, but because we shouldn't say? If you want us to continue unlocking hidden data, please give us a like now. Because the next part will not only talk about the shape, but also reveal details that make many scientists believe that the Baltic Anomaly may be carrying a message buried for millennia. In July 2025, an international survey team was granted access to the Baltic Anomaly using a new generation of 3D scanning technology. This time, they brought not only multi-beam sonar, but also autonomous diving robots capable of taking ultra-high-resolution images in near-zero light conditions. What they brought back completely changed the way scientists looked at it. The first image appeared on the control screen. It was no longer a blurry round mass like the crude scans of 2011. On the surface of the object, under the artificial light from the diving robot, deep grooves and orderly patterns appeared. Some lines ran parallel like engravings. Others formed right angles and repeated motifs. The observer immediately made comparisons. It was reminiscent of Egyptian hieroglyphics or ancient Chinese bone inscriptions. The common feature, they were not random, but systematic. In a 4-minute sequence, the robot approaches the outer edge of the structure. The camera slowly pans over a 2-meter wide area where symbols are deeply carved into small squares. Some symbols resemble the shape of a sun, symbols that look like a human figure with arms outstretched, and symbols that have never been seen in any known civilization. Researcher Anders Falk, who directly supervised the survey, exclaimed, "We don't see rocks, we see language." In parallel with the images, sediment samples around the object were also brought back to the laboratory for analysis. The initial results were shocking. In the surrounding mud, there appeared a rare metal compound with a composition similar to a titanium alloy mixed with some strange elements. Remarkably, the Baltic seabed area has absolutely no geological origin that could produce this type of compound. It is as if something was brought from somewhere else, or created using techniques that do not belong to our time. As the data was fed into the AI system, the algorithm searched for matches with millions of ancient symbols in the database. Some patterns were up to 40% similar to Sumerian symbols, while others closely resembled symbols from the Harappa civilization in the Indus Valley. But none of the symbols was a perfect match. This was a language on its own, or worse, a root language, older than any writing system known to humanity. The initial meaning became clear. The Baltic Anomaly was more than just an unusual rock formation. It was more like a giant stele or a repository of knowledge where ancient people or some entity had deliberately left traces. Rather than forming naturally, it carried a message. But who was the message for, and why was it buried at the bottom of this cold sea? If this is really writing, who would want to send a message from the darkness of the ocean? And if it was left for humans, why did we only find it when AI was born? In the control room, while scientists were still arguing about the origin of the symbol, the AI suddenly discovered a series of repeating motifs, like a code or an encrypted reminder. And then, the mystery no longer stopped at the image, but moved to a much more creepy hypothesis. Baltic Anomaly may not be just a structure. but a giant coffin holding something inside. In your opinion, why would a message be buried at the bottom of the ocean for millennia? Share your views in the comments section, because in the next part, we will face the boldest hypothesis. Baltic Anomaly is not a structure, but maybe a seal hiding something that humanity is not ready to face. Among the data the AI analyzed, there was one detail that sent a chill down the researchers' spines. On the surface of the Baltic Anomaly, among the strange grooves and symbols, stood out a series of motifs that repeated like code. When converted into numerical geometry, the AI suggested that it corresponded to the phrase, "the cycle of fire, reborn in the sea." No one knew if this was a real language or just an algorithmic coincidence. But even the most skeptical experts had to admit, the phrase was evocative. Because in many ancient civilizations, from Sumerian texts to Norse legends, there are descriptions of a cycle of destruction from the sea. The ancient Egyptians had the concept of great floods that swept away all previous civilizations. The Greeks mentioned Atlantis, a brilliant city that was swallowed by the sea. In Norse mythology, Ragnarok ended with fire and rising seas. Now, the series of symbols on the object at the bottom of the Baltic Sea is combined into the same motif: sea, fire, destruction, rebirth. The question that makes everyone shudder: is this just an ancient metaphor or a prophecy engraved to warn future generations? As the data was further collated, another factor emerged. The electronic interference around the Baltic Anomaly was no longer considered random. According to some experts, it was like an invisible defense system. The electromagnetic signals emitted by the object had a clear range. The closer you got, the more the equipment became paralyzed. Farther away, everything worked normally. This was not the characteristic of ordinary rocks or sediments. It was like a barrier, as if designed to keep everything out, and maybe also keep something in. If the Baltic Anomaly is not a structure, but a container, what is it holding inside? Here, a bold hypothesis was raised. The Baltic Anomaly could be a giant coffin, or a memory box containing the remains of a lost civilization. Some researchers were optimistic that it could be a seabed library, storing knowledge for future generations. But others are more pessimistic. If it is a coffin, does it hold a secret that should not be opened? It is at this point that the horror touches the present. Today's world is facing climate change, rising sea levels, and technological threats that are out of control. When the AI read the phrase, "the cycle of fire, reborn in the sea," many could not help but make the connection. Is this not just an ancient story, but a warning that repeats itself in the 21st century, when humanity is at risk of self-destruction? Even more frightening, the AI data also showed that the Baltic symbol motif does not stand alone. In some other underground structures, such as Yonaguni in Japan or the strange circles in the Mediterranean, similar symbols also appear scattered. It is as if an invisible hand has left a global sign reminding us of a buried cycle. If so, the Baltic Anomaly is just the beginning of a network of seals that spans the entire planet. Now the question becomes more haunting than ever. If the Baltic Anomaly is just the first piece of the puzzle, what happens when the AI reveals similar structures across the oceans? A secret buried for millennia is gradually revealed, not of a single location, but of a global network. When the AI completes its deep analysis, what emerges is no longer confined to the Baltic Sea. The machine begins comparing the captured symbols with a massive database of millions of samples of texts, patterns, and archaeological structures from around the world. And the results leave scientists speechless. the Baltic Anomaly is not alone. In the western Pacific Ocean, off the coast of the Okinawa Islands, there exists a submerged structure called the Yonaguni Monument. This is a giant stone structure with regular steps and straight edges that has caused controversy among archaeologists for decades. On the surface of Yonaguni, people also found deep grooves carved into squares and triangles, patterns that AI determined to have a similarity of up to 38% with the motif on the Baltic Anomaly. Moving to the Mediterranean, under the deep blue water near Malta, Sonar recorded giant stone circles deep under the sea. Many people call them underwater Stonehenge. The circular structure, regular lines, and repeated engravings raise the question: could this also be the relics of a civilization that was washed away by the waves? The AI comparison results show that the symbols carved on the stones in Malta have a parallel line motif that is 23% identical to the Baltic data. In the Caribbean, near the coast of Cuba, explorers discovered a group of submerged structures with tower blocks, steps, and long corridors. They were described as a sunken city. When the data was fed into the analysis, the AI pointed out incredible coincidences. Closed circular curves repeated on the Caribbean rocks were identical to the symbols engraved on the Baltic surface. Not stopping there, some researchers mentioned Dwarka, the legendary city swallowed by the sea off the coast of India, mentioned in the epic Mahabharata. In the underwater scans, there appeared pillars and stacked stone blocks with geometric patterns. The AI compared and gave the result: a 29% similarity with the symbols on the Baltic Anomaly. As more data was fed in, a common motif became more and more apparent. Different civilizations, thousands of kilometers apart, even those with no historical connection, left similar marks, and all were submerged under the sea. This raised a terrible suspicion. Are we standing before evidence of an ancient global civilization that left behind colossal structures and messages carved in stone, then disappeared without a trace? And if so, was it a natural disaster, or did they deliberately leave a sealing mark before erasing themselves from history? Some scholars argue that this is just pattern fallacy, the human tendency to find patterns in chaos. But AI has no such bias. It processes data using pure mathematics, recognizing straight lines, right angles, and repeating patterns without knowing the story behind them. So when AI repeatedly reports similar patterns between the Baltic, Yonaguni, Malta, and the Caribbean, it goes beyond coincidence. A global network built thousands of years ago, all swallowed by the sea. If the Baltic is just one piece, what does the complete picture reveal? A lost civilization, or a shared secret that all of humanity was forced to forget? If all these structures were connected, what, or who, built a system that spanned the entire planet and then let it disappear? And could what lies dormant in the deep sea be the erased memory of all humanity? And if you believe that these secrets should not remain in the dark, please share the video so that more people can ask the question: why did structures across the world disappear? Because in the next part, we will delve deeper into the creepy question: could this be a message intentionally buried in history? Throughout human history, there have been languages that have been passed down for thousands of years, left on stone tablets, manuscripts, or collective memory. But there have also been writing systems that have disappeared almost without a trace. The Minoan Linear A, the Rongorongo of Easter Island, or the mysterious symbols in the Voynich manuscript. What do they have in common? Existing, then disappearing, as if erased from history by an invisible hand. When the AI compared the Baltic data with those texts, the similarities were chilling. Could it be that we are dealing not with a lost language, but with something that was deliberately erased? A hypothesis gradually emerged. The Baltic anomaly and similar structures were not simply swallowed by the sea, but may have been intentionally submerged, like a giant seal. Questions abound. If it is indeed a sealing system, who built it? To protect humanity from an unknown danger, or to hide an extremely dangerous truth? Are the legends of the Great Flood just myths, or are they actually collective memories of a time when knowledge was buried to prevent it from regenerating? We are faced with a dilemma. On the one hand, the Baltic anomaly may contain invaluable knowledge, the key to deciphering global history. But on the other hand, it could be something that previous civilizations decided to seal forever. So should people today read those buried words? And if they do, are we strong enough to bear the consequences of the truth that our ancestors tried to erase? If you believe that these buried secrets are just the tip of the iceberg, click subscribe to not miss the next decoding journey. And now, we will go to the most important part. The message that humanity must carry when facing the truth. AI can open doors that humans were once powerless to, but what we step through and bring out of that darkness is still our choice. Knowledge, if used properly, can save humanity. But if abused, it can become the seed of destruction. We have flown into space, but we understand less than 5% of the ocean. Who can say for sure that besides the Baltic, how many other secrets are sleeping at the bottom of the sea? Thank you for accompanying us until the last moment of this journey. Your interest and patience are the driving force for the mysterious stories to continue to be told, completely and emotionally. More importantly, the Baltic anomaly is not only a secret of the deep sea, but also a mirror reminding us of our responsibility to knowledge and life on this planet. The greater the knowledge, the heavier the responsibility. If you feel that this story brings something to ponder, please give a like, leave a comment with your own thoughts, and share this video with more people. And prepare for the next journey, where other, more shocking and horrifying secrets are waiting for you to discover at the end of the video. Are you ready to step through that secret door